Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Bryant with SFFT Source, your premier unofficial guide to Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and it is time to go over all of the happenings taking place at this year's Fright Fest event. Fright Fest 2019 takes place from September 13th to November 2nd, so this Friday is when everything begins, and we're really excited to talk about it. Now, for those of you who may be confused, Fright Fest is actually a Halloween-themed event that the park puts on for, a month and a half or so leading up to Halloween. So when you go to the park during the day, it's actually very calm. You can enjoy the park like a normal guest. It is very kid-friendly. However, starting at about 6:30, 7 p.m. each night, that's when things really amp up, get scary, and the monsters come out to play, haunted houses open, decor around the park just intensifies overall. So we're gonna actually start out with the Scare Zone lineup for this year. So Scare Zones are little themed sections of the park that are okay to walk through during the day, but at night, they feature monsters, they feature specific themes, and really, if you're going to be walking through these scare zones, you have to kind of accept the fact that there's going to be people there to scare you. And I say people, but I really mean monsters. So with this year's event, there will be a total of 5 scare zones, and there will be 1 new scare zone. So I'm going to go over the brand new scare zone first. New for 2019 is the Infected scare zone. So Infected is going to take over the streets of Rockville. You can kind of expect it to go from Rockville High down to the Poltergeist area, and this is themed after kind of an alien invasion basically. So some meteorites hit the ground and these aliens started hatching. There is a crashed spaceship in the scare zone that we saw during our last visit, so there's really no telling what other theming is actually coming to the area. We do know that there are going to be some brand new costumes for the scare actors, so you can expect a pretty cool 1950s B-flick type of theme going on here that'll fit into Rockville really nicely. And the Parks Entertainment Department has actually built these massive props and pieces to complement the scare zone very nicely. And the 4 other scare zones in the lineup are actually returning from past seasons. So we'll go first to Crack Axle Canyon, where the Aftermath scare zone is. This is kind of like a post-apocalyptic type of scare zone, and you'll see, some fire shooting out, and you'll see a Jeep and some parachutes and some wreckage, and we'll actually drop in a clip of the Aftermath scare zone from a past season right now. There's nothing to worry about. Oh, okay, fire. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. Uh-oh, Spooky McSpookerson. There he is. Uh-oh. Next up is Circus Berserkus. Now this is kind of in the pathway on the side of Rockville High that leads you to Fiesta Bay Boardwalk, the very narrow pathway kind of by Wonder Woman Golden Lasso coaster. And all I can say about this scare zone is that it is full of clowns, full of clown-themed props. So if you are not a fan of clowns, this is not a good place for you to go. Very close quarters. You really can't avoid them if you're walking down this pathway. Be ready for the clowns because they are returning. Up next in Texas State Square is Soul Harvest. Now this scare zone was new for last year, and it was really cool. You have this massive jack-o'-lantern type of monster statue that is lit very eerily. You have a huge barn with spiders on it, and you also have some creepy, crazy creatures just kind of searching around Texas State Square looking for someone to scare. And I loved this addition to the Scare Zone lineup last year, and I'm actually going to drop a clip from our adventures through Soul Harvest from last season, so enjoy. The last scare zone in the Scare Zone lineup is Wicked Hollow. Now this is kind of like a witch-themed type of scare zone in the Spotsburg section right in front of Bugs Whitewater Rapids, and you can expect some, witches, you can expect some gargoyle type of characters, some other just kind of gnarly, European themed stuff in this scare zone, and new for this year, they've actually built a humongous ogre-looking statue. So we can't be any more excited. I love seeing these scare zones being brought back and actually being modified to be improved and to be more impressive and exciting. So the next section of Fright Fest activities that we're going to talk about are haunted houses. Now, I want to preface this by saying that haunted houses are not free this year. However, if you have memberships for Six Flags, this will kind of work in your favor. So before I get into the haunted house lineup, I'm just going to go over the pricing tiers for the haunted houses so that you are prepared and ready to go and not surprised when you come to the park and try to enjoy the haunted houses and realize you have to pay something. If you're a Diamond Elite member, you actually get a free general access wristband. Each time you come to the park, you get unlimited general access to all of the haunted houses, no matter how many times you want, no matter how many times you come to the park. So being a Diamond Elite member really comes in handy for Fright Fest because this is an amazing perk. Now, if you're a Diamond member, you do get one ticket free into one haunted house one time. If you want the general access band, Diamond Elite members can purchase that for $19.50. If you're a Platinum membership holder, then the general access wristband for haunted houses will cost you $22.50. If you're a Gold Plus member, then that same wristband will cost you $24. If you hold a Six Flags Season Pass, then you can actually get this general access wristband for $28. And if you're coming in on a one-day ticket and you don't have any kind of membership or pass, then you're looking at $30 to enjoy general access to all of the haunted houses. Now, keep in mind there will be upgrade packages available. We don't have the exact pricing on this, but I do know that memberships will get some kind of discount on these VIP upgrades as we were told by the park. However, we don't have those exact numbers for you. I think the first day of Fright Fest, those numbers are going to become available and we will put them directly into our online guide. I know that some of y'all are probably going to be disappointed that the haunted houses cost money, but please keep in mind that the haunted houses actually always used to cost money and they were only free for a few years. And there are no other Six Flags parks that are handing these out for free. And on the upside, this will actually control the crowd level of the haunted house lines much more effectively. So in my book, this really isn't something to complain about. The event itself is free. So there are other theme park chains where you actually have to pay for a whole extra ticket just to enjoy the event. So paying $30 for haunted houses, $30 or less, that's really not a big deal because it's not just one haunted house. You get access to all of the haunted houses and you can go as many times as you want into those houses on the day of that purchase. So we'll just jump right into the haunted house lineup. First, in Crack Axle Canyon, the Blood Bayou Haunted Trail returns. This is actually an outdoor haunted house that takes place in the Gully Washer queue line. It is camp themed, so when we went through it, there were all kinds of monsters trying to hide kind of in the foliage, and there were some creepy kind of awning passages that you had to go through that were part of the queue line. Last year, they actually added a really cool low-lying fog effect that had lasers in it that monsters could hide in. So really fun and interesting haunted house, and just being outside, being in the wooded area really adds to the experience. Next up in Crack Axle Canyon is the Buried Alive Haunted House. This one is kind of interesting to me. It's very well themed and you kind of go through these mine shafts and there's all kinds of surprises and really cool themed effects, and this is definitely one that I recommend for those of you who appreciate detail. Returning to Fiesta Bay Boardwalk is the Carn Evil 3D Haunted House, and just as it sounds, it does feature clowns, so if you don't like clowns, be careful. I wouldn't go in there. There are 3D glasses. You actually, in past years, have had to carry a flashlight that flickers on and off throughout the haunted house. That is your only source of light in there. So it's kind of a nerve-wracking house to walk through, and definitely one of the more unique experiences that you could have in a house. Also returning in Spotsburg is Midnight Museum of the Macabre. Now this was a brand new haunted house last year, and all I can say is crazy amounts of detail in this haunted house. They really thought about it. Not a lot of room to build a haunted house, but they really made it work. It's very effective, and I actually really loved the haunted house. I'm going to drop a quick clip in right now that actually shows you part of a tour that we took in the haunted house, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about.
There's lights, you notice all the details. Just as today you're seeing it with lights on.
Creepy dough. It's a little dark in here, but you guys can see the crazy detail on all of the shelving and stuff.
No, it's moving, see? It's moving. Oh, it's moving.
Returning to Rockville is Rock Kill High School. This takes place in the Rockville High Theater, and it is zombie themed. Basically, you're just walking through different passages and hallways and rooms of this school. You're going through the library, you're going through the locker rooms, and you have to be careful because zombies of Rockville, they're out and they're coming to get you. And this is kind of one of our more favorite haunted houses just because it's themed directly to the park. And I'll actually drop in a quick video of a tour we took of this haunted house from one of the past seasons. Oh, look, sound inputs. We are in a theater after all. I like how they had to cut out the wall. It's awesome.
You're gonna love this right up the head. Yeah, that's the thing of a zombie attack. I just love all these subtle details. Step 1, avoidance.
And finally, in Crackaxle Canyon is Slaughterhouse 6. This house makes its return kind of over by Roadrunner Express, and it's definitely a gory house. They play a lot of the scare off of loud noises, crazy lighting, so if that's something you're sensitive to, just keep that in mind, but it is definitely a fun haunted house. And last but not least, we're going to go through all of the live entertainment options at Fright Fest. I personally think that the Fright Fest entertainment lineup is the most exciting of the year. It's my favorite shows, and I'm really excited to see all of the new stuff coming this year. So one important thing that's coming back is the Arrival. Now last year the park tried to do something called the Awakening and actually release the monsters throughout the park in various locations. I don't think it had quite the impact they were looking for, so the Arrival returns. All of the monsters are going to run in on the train and come into Whistle Stop Station in Crackaxle Canyon. They'll jump off that train, they'll scare everyone that's around, and it's kind of a really intense situation. Gets really crowded over there, but it is very fun. I'll drop a quick clip of that in right now. Ooh, scary dragon winged thing. It is so crazy over here. I may have made a mistake. Next up is a brand new show called Creature Feature 2 Monsters in Paradise, and this actually comes to Sundance Theater. So in the past, Six Flags Fiesta Texas has featured a show called Creature Feature that has all of your classic kind of monsters with Frankenstein, Dracula, etc., etc., and it's kind of a funny comedy show with a nice storyline, so it'll be interesting to see what they do in this vacation-themed version of the show. And in Zaragoza Theater, House of Bones returns, but this year it's actually called House of Bones 2, so I think we can expect to see a lot more new music in this show, but hopefully with the same kind of voodoo New Orleans theme, because it was a really fresh concept last year that I loved for a Halloween show, and we'll actually drop a quick clip of that show from last year in right now. Coming to Teatro Fiesta is Noches de los Muertos. Now this is advertised as a classic rock Latin kind of show, and I think it's mainly going to feature the Fiesta Texas band, which is a great thing. I love when they're showcased in shows. So I don't think it's going to have any of your main performers. Of course, we don't really know, but I think the emphasis is going to be on the band, so we're very excited for this new show. And returning to Lone Star Lil's Amphitheater, of course, is Monster Mash Bash. my favorite show of the whole year. This year it's going to be circus themed. It has a whole new set. If you watch our last video from Fiesta Texas, we actually got an exclusive tour of the new set. I'd love for you guys to go check that out. But right now, I'm actually going to drop in a clip from last year's Monster Mash Bash show, and I'm super excited. I love Monster Mash Bash, and it's honestly one of my main reasons for going to Fright Fest at Fiesta Texas. So, if you have any questions about Fright Fest 2019 at Fiesta Texas, I would love for y'all to ask in the comments below. I'd love to answer any questions you might have. Please note that we actually have a full extensive guide with all of this information, with tips, with our recommendations, anything you might need to know about Fright Fest, and I actually put that link in the description below. And of course, we already have all of the show times for the Fright Fest entertainment on our main website. I'm actually going to put a link for that in right now, and you can actually kind of plan out your day, plan out how you want to see those shows. Please note that all of your indoor haunted houses are going to open at 6 p.m. each day of Fright Fest, with the exception of Blood Bayou, which opens at 7:30 because they want to wait for the park to get a little bit darker. The arrival will take place at 7 p.m. each night, which means that all of the scare zones around the park are going to be activated around 7:30. I'm giving you all this important information just because if you need to kind of plan for younger guests, this gives you a nice timeline of when it's going to be suitable to be at the park and when it will be a good time to leave if you do not want to participate in the scary activities. Of course, we are going to have a Fright Fest 2019 guide coming out soon for Six Flags over Texas. Stay tuned for that next week. We thank you all for watching, and we'll see you at a theme park soon.